Moving into the New Orleans Saints, Dobbs, is it the end of the Derek Carr area or is it the start?
You know, here's the thing, Hunter, is this year is going to determine it all, right? Because what I want to remind everybody on is, and hold on, let me just, I always, sometimes I'll spitball statistics where I'm really close to the exact number, and I want to do that for this one. Look, last year, Derek Carr full year statistics, right? We're talking 3,878 yards, 25 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. Now, that's nothing eye popping, and I'm not sitting here trying to champion Derek Carr's year. It was not a special year in any way. However, when you hear the average NFL fan talking about Derek Carr nowadays, or how the Saints offense was last year, they're talking like Derek Carr was out here playing like a bottom three, bottom five quarterback, and there was no positives. He played like realistically, he had an above average NFL quarterback season, right? Like, and again, back to the fact that like the Saints offense was a bad unit that was terribly schematically, right? Like, I'm not sitting here trying to defend any of that, but I think that's actually kind of what I'm trying to use to like prop up Derek Carr is that given a horrendous set of circumstances, he still found a way to keep the turnovers minimal, to have a relatively productive year. And it's not like the Saints receiving core is full of guys that are all the way developed. I mean, I would say, again, from the Saints fans' perspective, I'll always give it to you like that. But I think our receiving core is all of them are really still coming into their own, young guys that are still taking steps. And the offensive line is far and away the biggest issue, right? Like if we put that last year's version of Derek Carr between an even like somewhat comprehensive O-line, I think you would see a big difference in like the play. So really the whole point of what I'm trying to say is the NFL populace as a whole is putting way too much on Derek Carr and like way not enough on the fact that like our offensive schematics were garbage and the O-line was one of the worst, if not the worst in the whole league last year. Right. And so that's why it's such a big deal. We go and we draft Talise Fuaga. We say to ourselves, we have to start rectifying this big issue because far and away, and it's not even close, the biggest issue with the Saints and what will push Derek Carr out of the building sooner than should be perhaps is if we can't get this O-line together this year, it's going to be over not just for that O-line, but it's probably going to be over for Derek Carr. It's going to be over for a lot of people because that's the bottom line for this team is that if we don't get this O-line back, and every Saints fan knows the standard for so long, what made this unit such a well-oiled machine on offense was not just having Drew. It was having Drew behind a group of really good O-linemen. And we are not giving Derek Carr that same luxury. It's not fair to Derek Carr. And until we figure it out, Hunter, we are going to be stuck in this middling out, struggling to win a very bad division, which is where we've been for the last couple of years, right? And that's kind of just how could you spill it any more clear cut than that for the Saints?
Yeah, I think my main thing is I don't think if the Saints don't have a good season this year, and like you were saying, like the O-line has struggled, especially with Ramczyk. I mean,
he might be done forever, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say.
It hasn't been reported on really that much by like a lot of big media outlets and stuff. It's more like local, like guys that are on it right now. Yeah. Unfortunately, Saints fans, NFL fans, we truly might have witnessed the last Ryan Ramczyk snap, which breaks my heart to say verbally, but it's true. So
I think just also like a lot of the core players are kind of getting older. And so like Cam Jordan's getting older, Lattimore's getting older, Tyrann Mathieu getting older. The O-line is questionable, like you said. Kamara's getting older. You do have a young receiving core, but outside of Olave, there really hasn't been anyone that's proved themselves to be like a long-term starter,
I would say Rashid Shaheed's like getting there, but I'm with you though, where it's like I want to see like a more consistent version of him. It's kind of spotty.
I feel like I will say Kool-Aid, but it doesn't feel like outside of their older players who are really talented like Demario Davis that they have succession plans set up, right? And I do think that if the Saints do struggle this year, I do see a scenario where Dennis Allen may be out the door, but Clint Kubiak kind of stays around. Like, I think that may be a reality. I will say this. The Derek Carr situation is very interesting to me because he's on contract for 24 and 25, right? If they were to cut him, he'd have a dead cap hit um, of like 50 mil next year, and he has one of 62 mil this year. But the Spencer Rattler pick makes me think that they could pivot. Like, Rattler to me was one of the quarterbacks that got taken that could, like, when I did my quarterback rankings for like the best situation for rookie quarterbacks, like, I had Rattler in there because to me, Rattler is a guy that you could potentially start. Like, he's not your typical quarterback who gets drafted in the later rounds. Like, he was projected to be a pretty high pick. He had some issues at Oklahoma where he lost a job to Caleb Williams.
Number one overall prospect at one point in high school. I mean,
that's what I'm saying. Like, there's a guy there, and I think my thing is, it's Derek Carr's job. Do not get me wrong. But there is a very young guy who's very cheap breathing down his neck.
Oh, and that's the best. No, that's the best part. You know, again, you knew we weren't going to leave the Saints talk without discussing real quick. And again, too, I want to say prayers to Jay Kaner dealing with some type of, if I'm not mistaken, I knew it was some type of cancer, skin cancer. Prayers. Most importantly, Jay Kaner get healthy. We want to see back in the building. I want to say, is that like Jay Kaner and Spencer Rattler have both been having really relatively good training camp so far, and so that's the big, to your point, the pressure has got to, or before the skin cancer came out. But I'm saying, and more, I meant to say Spencer Rattler's been having a good training camp. Jay Kaner, there's been good things said about him through in the building, not more to the Jay Kaner to differentiate between him and Spencer Rattler. But at camp, Spencer Rattler has been playing good ball, some zip on that thing. And again, obviously I'm not there seeing every play. From what I have seen though, it seems like the coaches are really, really liking what they're seeing from him. And just to solidify everything you're saying into one bottom line, he is literally breathing down Derek Carr's neck from the standpoint that he's 10 years younger. He is millions of dollars cheaper. And from a physical skill set, he has the physical tools. Now it's up to Clint Kubiak and co to really hone it into a professional quarterback. If they can do that, I mean, really, it's only a matter of time before we could see Spencer Rattler really stepping in and taking the reins for this New Orleans Saints team. Again, though, is it likely? Not necessarily. But is it wholeheartedly in the realm of possibility? Oh, absolutely. So, it's definitely something to keep your eye on as just an NFL fan in general.
Yeah, the Saints are probably one of the most questionable teams in the league, and just in terms of okay, what are they going to do next?
Yeah, they fit in very much with the Titans in terms of though they could be a playoff team and win their division, or they could really have a horrendous year and totally start rebuilding everything.